Good evening. This is a regular meeting of the Molalla City Council for January 28th, 2026. Please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call, beginning with Councilor Bartholomew.
Councilor Bartholomew present.
Council President Vermillion present.
Mayor Kaiser present.
Councilor Childress present.
Councilor Schenkel present.
Councilor Gilmer present. Assistant City Manager Matt Korthel present.
Planning Manager Dan Zender present.
City Recorder Christy Teets present.
Dan Huff, City Manager, present.
Do staff or council have any changes to the agenda tonight? All right, up next, consent agenda consisting of a work session meeting minutes, January 14th, 2026. City Council meeting minutes, January 14th, 2026. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second.
It's been moved and second. Is there any discussion? All right, Christy, will you call the roll?
Certainly. Councilor Gilmer.
Aye.
Councilor Schenkel.
Aye.
Councilor Childress. Aye. Council President Vermillion.
Aye.
Councilor Bartholomew.
Aye.
Mayor Kaiser.
Aye.
Thank you. Vote passes 6-0.
All right, up next will be public comment. Citizens are allowed up to 3 minutes to present information relevant to the city, but not listed as an item on the agenda. Prior to speaking, citizens shall complete a comment form and deliver it to the city recorder. The city council does not generally engage in dialogue with those making comments, but may refer the issue to the city manager. Complaints should first be addressed at the department level prior to addressing the city council. Is there anything outside of the agenda that needs to be discussed? Or
The only public comment this evening, Mayor, is for item 8A.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we will go to ordinances and resolutions. Resolution number 2026-3, authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with Clackamas County relating to tax revenue replacement. Mr. Korthel, can I have your staff report?
It's mine.
Mayor, I think that
Oh,
one's Mr.
sorry.
Huff. Sorry.
It's mine.
I totally misread that. Well, misread it. Go ahead.
Well, if you turn to page 52 in your agenda, there's a memo from me. And what this is, if you all remember the pilot program that Clackamas County adopted in 2020, which we did not know that they adopted. And after some lengthy, actually starting about a year ago, discussions with Clackamas County, they have corrected a portion of it where the funding that was coming into this program was being dispersed throughout the county. It is now coming into the Molalla taxing district. We're not the only ones that lost some of those taxing dollars. So that has been corrected. The other component of this, and I have to commend the mayor for going up and talking to the county commissioners at a commissioner meeting where he read a letter to them about this, and one commissioner, Commissioner Helms, actually kind of picked up the cross, if you will, and actually met with us. So the county has offered to provide the city with lost revenue that we had in the year that the money didn't come into the taxing district, and that's the $6,302.36. And this is an IGA that provides those funds to the city from Clackamas County. And if you go down to page, that's page 53, there's the intergovernmental agreement there. And if you look in that agreement, they're actually providing the city with the fire district's portion. And then once we get that from the county, we will then give those funds to the fire district. I've had a conversation with the fire chief, and so he knows that's happening. This IGA is between, as I said, is between the city and the county, and you would be authorizing me to sign the agreement.
All right.
So I should add,
Go ahead.
I'm gonna say this, I should add this in the meeting here tonight. The county adopted this, they adopted an ordinance, and they got into a contract with the developer. Now, we can talk all we want about principally whether that was correct or not, and it's hard to swallow that when they consider us partners and they didn't talk to us about this. So they can't get out of that contract. They're locked into that contract, but they didn't adopt a contract for phase 2 of this development, and doesn't help us, but they've also made a public statement that they're never going to do this again. So thank you for that. Just wanted to throw that out there. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
All right, is there a motion to approve resolution number 2026-03, authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with Clackamas County relating to tax revenue replacement and authorizing the city manager to execute the documents?
I move to adopt resolution number 2026-03, authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with Clackamas County relating to tax revenue replacement and authorizing the city manager to execute the IGA.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? I'd like for the record to state thank you to Mr. Corthell for catching this and doing your due diligence and investigating where our taxpayers' dollars went. It was a very good eye on you, and it brought up a year's worth of work, but I think well worth it, and shows the taxpayers here in Molalla that we are out for their best interest. So thank you very much for catching this.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize Susan Duffy, our lead accountant, and Mike Panunri, our fire marshal. They both helped bring this to my attention, so
Okay.
I want to make sure that they get the credit they're due.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. All right, Christy, we have a first and a second. Would you call the roll, please?
Certainly. Counselor Gilmer.
Aye.
Counselor Schenkel.
Aye.
Counselor Childress.
Aye.
Council President Vermillion.
Aye.
Counselor Bartholomew.
Aye.
Mayor Kaiser.
Aye.
Thank you. Vote passes 6-0.
All right, up next will be resolution number 2026-04, adopting updated daycare system development charges. Is this you, Mr. Corthell?
Yes, sir.
All right, take it away.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor and Council. So last meeting on January 14th, I guess not our last meeting, the one before, on January 14th, we discussed daycare STCs, and the council directed staff to go and bring you a resolution back. That is this resolution. In effect, this resolution moves daycare SDCs from the 9th edition of the Institute of Traffic Engineers Manual to the 10th edition, and thus reducing them by about 7.68 trips. So as you guys know, and we'll be talking a little bit more about SDCs in the weeks to come. I'll talk to you guys about that during my staff report, but this also comports with your comprehensive plan, where workforce initiatives prioritize childcare as a workforce readiness issue, and it appears to be fundamentally fair to staff in that we're just honoring the newer, more updated numbers that provide quite a cost savings. In fact, about a 60% cost savings to the folks in town who want to start a daycare business. So that's what this does, and if you have any questions, obviously I'm here for those.
And of course, staff's recommendation is to approve it.
Yes, sir.
All right. Is there a motion to approve resolution number 2026-04, adopting updated daycare system development charges by title only?
I move the City of Molalla to adopt resolution number 2026-04, a resolution of the City of Molalla, Oregon, adopting updated daycare system development charges.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any questions or discussion? All right, Christy, will you call the roll?
Counselor Gilmer.
Aye.
Counselor Schenkel.
Aye.
Counselor Childress.
Aye.
Council President Vermillion.
Aye.
Counselor Bartholomew.
Aye.
Mayor Kaiser.
Aye.
Thank you. Vote passes 6-0.
All right, up next, general business, urban growth boundary, continued discussion. Mr. Zinder, can we have your staff report, please?
All right, let me just plug this. Go. All right, good evening, council. Yep, Planning Manager Dan Zinder to provide the staff report for the UGB expansion update. This is a continuation from the January 14th, 2026 discussion regarding the utilization of revised population numbers in a new housing capacity analysis. Fiscal impact would be 0.5 FTE of staff time for the life of the project and all costs in excess of the $115,000 grant award that we currently have. Staff's recommendation is to move forward with the adopted UGB work plan using the 2022 PSU population forecast from the adopted housing needs analysis rather than update population numbers in a new housing capacity analysis, HCA, and no action would be necessary to do this. So HNA and HCA, the HCA is just what they're calling it now, housing capacity analysis, and I'll use those interchangeably throughout this discussion. There's a bunch of other acronyms I have here as well. So just background, in response to concerns raised by members of the Molalla area CPO, staff visited the question of updating and replacing the city's adopted HNA with the council on January 14th. The CPO is a quasi-planning organization for properties residing outside the city limits, but still within Clackamas County, and the CPO, at least some of their members, are advocating that the city update its HNA using the recent forecast populations from PSU rather than the 2022 estimates utilized in our HNA. Both the 2024 and 2025 20-year forecasts are substantially lower than the 2022 one, and so these newer estimates forecast that Mollalla's population will increase by about 2,000 fewer people than the 2022 forecast. So a difference between 13,500 and 15,500 people, roughly. And so using the newer numbers would likely result in a smaller land need and smaller UGB expansion. As discussed in the January 14th meeting, using the revised numbers would have a substantial impact on UGB expansion timelines and process. And so I just created a few slides basically outlining what I put in the staff report here. So if we continued with the adopted HNA, the process would be we'd readopt the HPS in February, so that's, and then we would use the $115,000 monies that we got from the DLCD grant to update our Goal 14 analysis on practicability of a southern expansion versus a northern one, and UGB amendment adoption, and that the timeline for that portion would be at the end of calendar year 2026. We would also be applying for a transportation management grant with ODOT to update the Molalla TSP. That way we could then zone the areas, give comp plan zoning designations to the areas that we bring into the UGB. And that project kickoff would likely sort of correspond with the tail end of the UGB process and likely be completed in 2027. So if we don't, if we use new numbers, the process would be, again, same, to readopt the HPS in February 2026. We would then use the $115,000 from the DLCD grant to produce a new HCA and residential BLI and then update the HPS. I talked with Violet Brown today. She's not here tonight, but I talked with her today. And basically about $100,000 is what they're currently bidding for a new HCA. That's about what the new HCA's cost. So it would be the majority of that money is, and then then a little bit more for the HPS. So they're, this would give or take a couple grand cover it, but that would sort of be the end of it. So the new documents that we created, the new HCA and any Goal 14 analysis we did, and there would be in compliance with the new owner rules. The new rules require more robust BLA, more granular breakdowns of needed housing and research and outreach with local tribes, and additional outreach may be needed. I will add that this is not necessarily all onerous. Some of this new BLI actually can might be helpful in terms of ironing down exactly what our housing capacity is. It's a little more of a rigorous process for determining what's buildable and what's not buildable. And I think we have some stuff that we're currently considering capacity that probably wouldn't be. So that, in that regard, it actually gives us maybe a more realistic target. And then that timeline would put the new HCA adoption in late 2026, 27. We would be applying for a new competitive DLCD grant in the 2027 biennium for the work that we currently have slotted to the grant. So that's the Goal 14 work and adoption of the UGB amendment. That's likely late 2028, early 2029 finish. Current owner rules probably wouldn't risk, in fact, they may actually be sort of equally or better, more supportive in terms of justifying going north. There's actually a definition for impracticability that we could use, so that would be a factor there. And then the last piece is we'd be applying for this TGM grant with ODOT to update the Molalla TSP and account for UGB expansion zoning. And so that would be that ODOT grant again, but instead of the end of this year, early 2027, we'd imagine sometime in late 2029 a completion date for that. So, substantially pushing back the timeline. So staff recommendation, as stated above, is to continue forward using the adopted H&A population numbers. To expound on that, the reason for the season of PSU revising their population forecast downwards is that they saw a slowdown after 40 years of growth, a slowdown of population growth, in fact, a reversal, decline during the pandemic. And so Mollalla's population has always been heavily dependent, our population movement has been heavily dependent on overflow from the Portland market of people settling here. And so that was sort of slowing as well. And so it was a Oregon-wide thing that their forecast went down. The population forecasts create the basis for UGB land expansion, but there's no obligation to meet that, to have the population meet what the forecast is. So just because we've adopted a population doesn't mean we have to grow by that much. It just means that we have to bring in enough land so that we can. And this distinction is important as evidenced by many cities throughout the state and by industrial lands in Mollalla's own urban growth boundary. Land may be banked in a UGB for decades without getting developed if market forces do not create pressures for it to develop. These recent trends are also not set in stone. So 2025 saw a positive net migration, fairly modest, 17,000 people into Oregon in 2025. It was relatively small compared to previous trends, but it could be a bellwether towards a reversal of new interest in Oregon. Additional factors outside of big picture growth trends, these trends can change and cities might need land quickly. The city's EOA also identifies the needs for larger industrial sites, noting that existing industrial sites were too small to entice a large business to Molalla. And council has also expressed interest in this recommendation from the EOA that we pursue larger industrial sites. So not only could we adapt to change in macro trends, but if we bring in this larger site and we get a large employer, we would be able to accommodate for workforce housing. That could be a substantial factor in a business decision to locate in Molalla. At the same time, if these things don't happen, like I said before, it could be market-driven applications that'll develop the land, so we don't necessarily have to develop them. And then furthermore, the owner rules require this is a periodic review, so every 8 years we're required to do a new housing needs analysis to start the process over. So if the forecast numbers and pressures on Mollalla's housing market remain low, a surplus created in this planning cycle would result in the city not needing to expand its UGB in subsequent cycles. This would open time and money for staff to focus efforts on master planning, code development, and other efforts to improve quality of life in Molalla. So 8 years from now, we we do a housing capacity analysis, and we have too much land, we don't have to update our TSP and UGB. So that benefit could come out. So the second piece for regulatory and HCA process uncertainty, the city has adopted an HNA and UGB work plan, is under no obligation to change that, provided that the UGB expansion projects do not extend into the 2027 calendar year. So we have to get it done by the end of the year. While city staff have conferred with DLCD staff to outline the process as listed above, these past several years have seen sweeping changes to regulations governing housing production and the HCA process. If the city were to produce a new HCA, uncertainties about what the new process would yield and what regulatory stuff may come down the line. There's a couple points of uncertainty that include Oregon could elect a new governor with different priorities and agendas. Oregon rule adjustments could change the landscape further. We don't know what's coming down the pipe necessarily. Population forecast may change again. The revised BLI could result in demonstrating that the city has less capacity for further housing, thus not changing the ultimate UGB expansion by a whole lot. And the last piece, whether sufficient grant monies will be available in the new DLCD grant biennium to complete the work. I had a meeting with the Clackamas County Planning Directors. It was a Clackamas County Planning Directors meeting today. Trent Wilson, who does some legislative work with the county, reported back to us that the state is going to be facing budget shortfalls as a result of the big beautiful bill. And whether that grant money would be there to finish the project is a legit question, as much as the DLCD may aspire to help us complete it. The money may not be there. Vision as a collaborative endeavor. Vision for cities in Oregon goes well beyond a singular decision on the UGB. UGB boundaries determine the maximum land expansion within a planning period, but the character and nature of the development of a city is envisioned at many points along the way. City visioning is a collaborative dialogue between staff, the community stakeholders, agency partners, and its elected and appointed officials. This visioning is cemented through the comprehensive plan and subsequent master plans that emanate from it and are codified through the development code and other standards and policies. Through this collaborative process, the City of Molalla has rigorously updated its comprehensive plan and successor plans, laws, and policies over the last decade and a half. The collective effort behind this work has created an environment where when a developer wants to develop in this city, the developer needs to ensure that the development will have adequate utility facilities, the abutting streets are either built or rebuilt to meet current standards, and that appropriate measures are taken to buffer against conflicts with adjacent lands and land uses. And that parkland and pedestrian connections are appropriately designed and dedicated, and that appropriate emergency access is provided. I highlighted a couple things from just the last council meeting to show that we are constantly updating and implementing these plans. Just at the January 14th, we accepted a parkland acquisition in accordance with our master plan, that yaw property along 213. We adopted legacy SDC rates to honor, the SDC impact of existing or previous uses on a property. That was something that was identified in the EOA to provide some fundamental fairness to the fact that we don't really have adequate record keeping for what happened in the past, and just say, hey, if you built this way, we're not going to charge you an arm and a leg to get there. We're going to just charge you the excess to get there. Daycare SDC rates, we just passed that tonight to reduce the impact to daycares that are coming in, which is another thing identified in our economic opportunities analysis. And the last piece, Assistant City Manager Matt Crothell announced a grant in excess of $1 million to contribute towards the replacement of the water intake in the Molalla River. This project, identified in the city's water master plan, will cure the city's biggest challenge with late season water provision, and placement of the intake structure is the main issue, and now it's in a place where it'll be fully submerged. Initial notes on our master planning implementation. The city owns a 4.2 million per gallon per day water right, and at its highest peak usage only uses about 2 million currently. Additionally, the water Molalla uses at its highest recorded peak is equivalent to about 3% of the lowest river flows. Issues with the intake are related to the temporary nature of the existing intake and are being mitigated through the water intake project currently in design. There are substantial water rights for agriculture a short distance north of the city intakes that staff noted contributes to the appearance of low flows in Friar Park area, and it's not a City of Molalla issue. The city is in the process of studying the feasibility of an ASR, aquifer storage and recovery system, to provide an additional water source in case of emergencies or low flows. And additionally, the city is in the process of obtaining land for an additional 2 million gallon water reservoir on the water treatment plant property. In short, the city has twice the amount of water rights it needs to serve the existing population, is making the system more reliable and more resilient through execution of the water master plan. For sewer, the city's new wastewater treatment plant is at 50% completion and is designed to serve a population of 16,000. Notably, the city's system is in far better repair than many others. An anecdote to illustrate this: Molalla had no discharge violations during the recent storms, while multiple other systems throughout the state were pumping raw sewage directly into their local water bodies. So last, the risks of waiting on master plan implementation work. The city's comprehensive plan, master plans, and codes and standards are all living documents, and there's much work to be done on both the plans and their implementation. To provide one example, we discovered this year that the recently completed roundabout at Tolliver Road was constructed assuming population and trip generation consistent with the existing constraints of the UGB, which is consistent with the current Molalla Transportation Systems Plan. This gets back to the fact that this TSP is going to be delayed if we change our timing. As a result, any rezoning or additions of commercial lands to Molalla inventory were not able to be approved due to insufficient response to the transportation planning rule. Despite Mollalla's 20-year land deficits in commercial land, the city currently cannot rezone lands that are currently difficult to develop under the current zoning to commercial because our TSP is not accounted for that trip generation. Updating to the TSP to function commensurate with an anticipated growth plan is critical to ensure that improvements that accompany today's development are adequate to accommodate future development. In this way, anticipating a larger population than what ultimately comes does not actually make that larger population more likely. Required transportation improvements for development could be more substantial when accounting for a larger population. What building for a larger population would accomplish is to ensure that roadway designs are envisioned for 20 years down the line, and perhaps even beyond if actual population additions remain low. Additionally, these city transportation system plans inform state and county provision of transportation infrastructure for all transportation modes into the future. Delaying these TSP updates has substantial implications for the city's financial and functional future as we continue to build facilities that do not meet the city, county, and state's future needs. Last, for staffing time towards UGB planning has been substantial through the duration of the project dating back to 2021. While staff has not itemized man hours spent towards the project, staff feels comfortable that at least half a weekly FTE, or about 20 hours a week, is spent on these projects. For a staff that's ranged from 1.5 to 2.5 FTE over the duration of the project, it's been a substantial portion of the city's planning time and a substantial cost to the city. Moving backwards to redo the NHCA and delay the UGB adoption monopolizes time and money away from other projects such as updating TSP, code amendments, and implementing Goal 9, EOA, and Goal 10, HPS and HPS priorities. Code amendments and generally fixing identified flaws in the development code. Comprehensive plan updates and other long-range planning projects that ensure development in Molalla is consistent with the vision of our master plans and visioning processes. Molalla is no longer a small rural city, struggling through the aches and pains of becoming a larger one. Developers that come to Molalla find a city that collaborates but will not compromise its physical, monetary, and social infrastructure for development's sake alone. In addition to the UGB projects, the city's in the black financially, building out its TSP building a new sewer plant to meet projected population and business growth requiring parkland dedication with new residential development as set out by the comprehensive plan, building a new water intake, and much more. Planning staff is accountable to the council to ensure these priorities are met through its development code, and the council is ultimately accountable to the people of Molalla for the same. Whether we build up to 13,500 or 15,500, whether we're planning for those cities, the framework has been set to build this city deliberately and sustainably in a way that improves the livelihood of its citizens. We have a direction forward. Staff recommends that the council trust the process so we continue so that we can move with the expansion and further on to projects that continue to move Molalla forward. Thank you, council. That concludes the staff report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, up next, we will go to public comment on this topic, and Mr. Jim Gilbert, you're up first. If you come to the microphone, state your name and address, and we have a timer tonight. When you get started, it will turn green, and you are good to go. When it turns to yellow, you will have 1 minute left. When it's red, you are all done, sir.
Right there?
Yep.
Okay. I apologize for last time, and I will do my best to stick within it. I got my eyes dilated today, so it's a slight vision issue, but
Oh.
I'll do my best. I apologize again for last time, and I wanted just to talk for a moment about community planning organizations.
Can you state your name and address for the record?
It's
Sorry.
Jim Gilbert, 28696 South Kramer Road, Molalla. Live over in the Liberal area. Been farming
you.
there for some years. The community planning organizations were set up by Clackamas County many years ago, and their primary role is to be able to give the citizens who live outside a city a voice in planning decisions that affect them. And certainly the current expansion plan of Molalla is one of those kind of issues. I think one of the big questions that has come up for this is, what kind of a community do we want? What kind of a community do you want? What kind of a community do the citizens of Molalla want? The current expansion plan, as Dan Zinder mentioned, will provide for over a 50% increase in population, 5,000 some people. That's a big deal. And our CPO, of course, will hope to work with you in a collaborative and cooperative way in implementing that plan, but the impacts are significant. One, of course, is that many people will put a lot more cars on the road, probably over 1,000 more cars on the road, which will make commuting even more unpleasant than it is now during rush hour. I was paying attention to this talk about the river, and it's interesting to me that the city has a water right for a huge amount of water, but the city also restricts watering in the fall, and if you look at the river in the fall, it's a trickle. So 200 million or however many gallons the city has a right to, I don't know that it's going to be there, and one of the worst things that could happen would be to have the river dry up, which would be a tragedy for our community and our region. And the potential expansion of the urban growth boundary would have a big effect upon our farmland, paving over hundreds of acres of farmland, which right now is productive and fertile and can feed us for generations to come. And as we know, the current plan is based upon a outdated population forecast, which was superseded by a more conservative one. Still a significant amount of growth, but definitely a better, I believe, course for the city to take, minimizing those negative impacts and even eliminating or greatly reducing the need for expansion onto the expansion of the urban growth boundary onto farmland. I would think it would be interesting to hear what the citizens of Molalla would think about what they'd prefer and what you would prefer to have for a community. Certainly those of us that live outside of Molalla would like to see a smaller, more compact city and what I would really hope that you would do would be to choose that course of action and
Your time's up, sir.
Help keep our community happy, healthy, and livable. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Up next is Corwin DeMeo. If you could come to the mic, state your name and address, please.
Hi, good evening. Mayor, council, and staff.
The timer makes sense to you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, my name is Corwin DeMeo. I live at 32302 South Rachel Larkin Road, just south of town. So yeah, based on the staff report, obviously I understand that there's a recommendation for a probable decision to use proceed planning with the outdated population forecast. While I obviously disagree with that decision for the litany of reasons that I've covered in previous meetings, I acknowledge and appreciate the difficult position the city finds itself in. I also do want to thank the city staff and council for bringing the population forecast subject back into the public forum, and thank Mac and Dan and Clarissa for the thoughtful reconsideration. There's a lot of great commentary in the agenda packet for tonight, so I appreciate that a lot. So I realize that obviously now it's probably not possible to persuade you to change course with more practical arguments or statistics, but I would like to offer a few final perspectives for the council and staff to keep in mind as this process continues. There were some comments at the last city council meeting that the council's decision must remain grounded in the fiduciary responsibility the city has to taxpaying residents within its city limits. And while technically that's true from an administrative perspective, I contend that the city also has other moral obligations to the greater Molalla community who are also taxpayers, some of whom will be more directly impacted by this decision than anyone who lives in the city limits. 82% of the line items on my rural tax bill match a comparable city tax bill. I pay taxes for the same fire district, the same schools, many of the same common debts and bonds, and for shared county services that both people in the city and out of the city use. We are, for all intents and purposes, part of the same financial, environmental, and social ecosystem. But I do not live within city limits. I live directly in the center of Sub-Area 5, which is being targeted for expansion and remains at risk even if the city moves north instead. Because I reside 200 feet outside of the current growth boundary, I have no direct democratic recourse or remedy with this council. I cannot vote for or against any of you, yet obviously you're making a decision that will directly dictate my quality of life, the value of my land, and potentially my future health and safety. Throughout this process, I've returned to the idea of thinking about what my vision for my community is and what my values are. The house that I live in has been on the land that it's on for 153 years. It was built by the children of the first Dibble family members who settled Molalla. My back pasture is filled with apple and pear trees planted by the sons and daughters of pioneers. I have a stand of 100-year-old sequoias that is in my front pasture that red-tailed hawks nest in. The frogs that populate Bear Creek grow from tadpoles in my pond. Every owner before me has been a steward of my home and the land the same way that I am. There's no point in living in a place as beautiful as this if we do not care for it. Regardless of the final UGB plan the city pursues, I ask that you remain open to continued engagement from the community both inside and outside the city boundary. I ask that you use the flexibility and discretion that you have to limit the obvious harms of aggressive overexpansion, and consider not just the temporary financial costs, but also the very permanent social, cultural, environmental, and agricultural impacts on the people who have called this land home for generations. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, up next, Brian Rearick. State your name and address, and then did the timer make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
My name's Brian Rick. I live at 14289 South Vaughn Road, Molalla, Oregon. Basically, I'm a board member also of the CPO, but I have a little bit different vision. I'm for the growth boundary expansion, not against it. I do feel like, from being in the meetings, that it would be effective for somebody in the city to come and speak with them to help them understand what the growth boundary actually means, and that it's a lot of opportunity in some cases and not necessarily all a bad thing. And I don't really feel like y'all are doing a very good job at that. I was here at the last meeting. I've contacted the city multiple times about a property that we were interested in possibly bringing in to urban growth boundary. I left emails and phone calls. I still have not received a phone call. I regularly work with counties and cities on a regular basis, and when I send out an email, I always get some kind of reply within a week. And I just feel like we should be involved, and it would be a better outcome if we are. I too pay taxes. I mean, my tax bill, I pay over $5,000 just for the school expansion every year from my tax bills. I pay $23,000 for the school board, for Molalla School. My kids all go here. I love it. I want to help make there be a new school. I want there to be sensible expansion. I want there to be opportunity for my kids to be able to buy homes here close to me. My daughter currently rents an apartment for $1,600 a month when she could be renting it for $1,200 in the city because she doesn't want to live in the city away from the rest of her family. She wants to live here. but there's no opportunity to buy a house. There's just not for anybody that's coming up. And you guys aren't really offering any, when you go to the zoning side of it, you know, some of these people that have farms that would love to keep the farm, the pastures, the areas where it's not good to build anyways because it's hydric soil, where we need it to be able to recharge into the water aquifer system, but could also take a corner of it and put 5 more houses on. That way they would have the money to support that. That could be an alternative too. Not just apartments where they give almost nothing back and have all of the problems of the overpopulation, the traffic that comes in all at one time, the 10 people to a 900 square foot space. And I pay like a fifth of what the apartment complex pays in taxes as a single person. So you got 1,000 people that are here and they're paying $35 million worth of taxes. I pay $7 million worth of taxes and I've got 3 kids here. It's just, I feel like we could come up with a plan if we work together and we stop trying to just go north without finding out a good reason why we're not going south. I know you said it's too expensive.
Your time's up, sir.
Okay.
I would suggest you get a hold of Mr. Huff or Mr. Corthell and schedule a time, and hopefully they can come to your CPO meeting and sit down and discuss the ins and outs and everything that's going on, okay?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Nice lady in the front row, I think you have a comment card.
Yes, I didn't turn it in. Is that okay? Say something?
Would you give the card to the city recorder, please?
Sure. Sorry, I was trying to get your attention. Okay.
Timer makes sense to you?
Pardon me?
The timer makes sense to you?
Sure. That's
Green
fine.
is good, red, yellow's getting close, and red is done.
Sure.
Go ahead and have a seat, state your name and address for the record, please.
Okay, my name is Connie Derry, and I live at 36250 South Molalla Forest Road. We live up above Dickey Prairie, right on the river. And I am, first of all, a 6th generation Oregonian. All my family came over the Oregon Trail in the early 1840s, and our family has a deep affection, a deep love for this land. So I want to state that right off. We live on the river, we cherish the river, it's just the jewel of the area. And I'd like to express my support, my husband and I and our family's support, for the updated 2024 growth rate model for the city. As you well know, the Molalla River supplies most of the water around here for irrigation, for drinking, for whatever. It's such a treasure, but right now it's even very low. I've never seen it this low in the wintertime. It went from flood stage a couple weeks ago to very low for this time. So that's not a constant source of water. It's one of these days it's going to say, I've had enough, I can't do this, I can't supply all this water. So it just seems like we need to cherish that river and not try and tap every single ounce of water from it for agriculture, for people, for everything else. There is a certain amount of other life that relies on the river also. It's not just for humans. So I'd strongly advocate for the use of the current 2024 revised population growth estimates from Portland State. It isn't all about building more homes, making more money. There's a lot to be said about the quality of life. And I just hope we're not gonna fall into the same trap that's happened to so many small communities. Of course, you know, you wanna have places for people to live, but there's got to be more than a monetary value to all these wonderful things. I just want to speak from the heart and say it's not always progress to build more. More is not always better. There's a certain amount of quality of life that really needs to be part of the equation. So
All right.
That's my thought on the matter.
All right, thank you. Anybody else from the public wish to speak tonight? All right. So, staff, help me here. You you would need a consensus vote to change in the direction we're headed now. Am I correct?
We would need a vote to change direction,
Okay,
yes.
which we would need a motion for? Okay,
Yes, please.
so,
If you want to go using the new population figures, you would need to vote on that.
okay,
And if we don't, then we do nothing, right?
nothing. So, council, if anybody would like to make a motion to use the new PSU numbers, feel free to make a motion now. All right. Moving on. Clackamas County Transportation System Plan Update. Mr. Huff, can I have your staff report, please?
There's really not a long staff report on this. This is the information that Clackamas County has put out for their upcoming transportation system plan update. So you can read it. We have it posted on our website, and it's kind of like, this is the notice for the future work. I did ask and they hired a company to do their outreach, and that's what this is. This is not Clackamas County doing the outreach. They've hired somebody to do that for them. So sometime in the near future, if we get an opportunity for one of you all or a staff member to be part of an advisory group or a steering committee, we will get that information to you. But this is for the county.
I just
Yes, sir.
wanted to add one thing for the folks in the audience and the folks at home. This actually goes over how you can participate in this transportation system planning process. There are meetings being held near Sandy and Estacada, near Molalla, Campion, Oregon City, near Wilsonville, Lake Oswego, Westland, near Gladstone, Clackamas, etc. And these are virtual meetings from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Highly recommend that you participate in this process, especially if you have concerns about traffic in the area, whether you live in town or outside of it. This is a county-wide transportation system plan, so it's a good opportunity to get in there. And really, I know this from doing other master plans, that without the community's help in identifying trouble areas and things that are a problem, some of those things go unnoticed and then undealt with through the plan. So I would encourage everyone who has an interest to get engaged in this process. Obviously, the information's here in our council packet, but if for some reason you can't find that, just give us a call at Community Development. We'll be happy to share the information with you.
That's it.
That's it.
All right. Up next, staff communications. Mr. Zender, you're up.
Nothing else from me, Mayor.
All right.
Mayor?
City Recorder Teets.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I do have a couple of quick announcements to make, just as a reminder to our community members. We do have a couple of commission and committee vacancies. We have an opening on the Budget Committee. This is there is an opening for a 3-year term on the Budget Committee. Applicants must reside within Molalla city limits. For more information or an application for an appointment, it is available on the city website under the Budget Committee page. Planning Commission, there is still an opening on the Planning Commission. That is a 4-year term. And again, applicants must reside within Molalla city limits. For more information, that is listed on the city website under the Planning Commission page. And of course, if there are ever any questions about commission or committee appointments, folks are always more than welcome to either email me, and my contact information is on the website, or give me a call. Again, they can find all of my contact information on the city website. That's what I have this evening. Thank
Perfect.
you.
Thank you. Assistant City Manager Corthell.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening again, Council. So I told you before we delve into the 2025 community development for fourth quarter community development report here, I just wanted to share with you guys that we've got kind of our game plan set up for system development charges. I know I've been talking a lot about that. We'll be on February 25th, we'll be having a work session to go over system development charges in general for some of our new folks on the council. and it's always a good refresher for folks who have been on the council. Then the following meeting in March, you'll be hearing from our consultant, Steve Donovan, talking about parks SDCs in relation to the new parks master plan that you guys just adopted in 2025. And then pushing forward a few days from that, because it's a 90-day notice requirement, we'll have something in front of you guys. We anticipate in I believe it was early April, right? Or was that late March? Anyways, I'll get that date to you
April.
as well. But at any rate, that's what's upcoming on those. And then we'll, as soon as the stormwater master plan gets done, we'll start taking a look at those. So we're going to kind of have a warm up with parks, get our heads in the game, and then push through into stormwater shortly after that. So we're going to start dealing with these. Secondarily, but just as important, you've got your community development report. Obviously highlights some of the things that are going on in the community, some of the things that are happening in our department. There's some great things in there, but I'm going to draw your attention to just one. And despite Mr. Huff directing me to read the entire report into the record, Mr. Zinder already did that for us. So we'll skip forward a little bit. At any rate, I'm going to draw your attention to the feature. It's on it's like page 4 of your community development report. Looks like that.
I saw that.
So what I wanted to highlight on this is that, as you guys know, the city, due to past issues before any of us was here, I always make sure to point that out. We are under we operate our wastewater treatment plant under a consent decree and memorandum of agreement with DEQ. That memorandum of agreement provides for some additional things that we have to do so that they can make sure that the city is following, along with everything it's supposed to be. And again, this is from stuff that wasn't happening over a decade ago that we have been fixing for a decade. That's taken that long to fix, literally, actively repairing it every year. So the big one here is that your biosolids, final removal of the biosolids, of all biosolids from the lagoons, was what would mark the completion of the wastewater treatment plant project. Now, the wastewater treatment plant would have been online already by 2028 with another 5-year gap to remove the rest of the biosolids from Lagoon 1. Okay, Lagoon 2 would have been already cleaned out as part of the first phase of the project. So you'd have an up and running active wastewater treatment plant, and then we'd be processing the sludge from Lagoon 1 through our new equipment nonstop day and night for about 4 years to get it all out of there. We have applied to DEQ, or in the process of applying to DEQ for an amendment to that memorandum of agreement to remove all biosolids from the lagoons 5 years in advance of the date given. That saves this community a lot of money, and I'll get you guys better numbers as we hopefully get approval. But I can just talk a little bit about what it does. So by adding the additional volume of sludge to be removed, it drives down the price per unit that the contractor charges us. So we experience about, and again, I don't have final numbers yet, so take this with a bit of a grain of salt, but about a 45% reduction in the price per unit that it would have cost us to do it as a phase 2. In addition to that, we're able to close the interim financing that provides us the financing up front, and then USDA buys out that financing at the end of the project. All during that time, you pay interest on the interim financing. We will close those loans 5 years in advance. So that interest is just sunk cost. You're never paying that loan back. You're just paying interest on it until USDA buys it out, and then you start paying your USDA debt. Well, in this case, we start paying the USDA debt 5 years in advance, and all that money that would have been sunk into interest for the interim financing gets to go towards your principal and interest for your actual loan that you're paying off. So it's a fairly substantial bit of money that is being saved. And I would guesstimate, as we sit here, and again, I will follow up with actual numbers for you guys, but I would guesstimate you're north of $500,000, north of $500,000 in savings. And so that's just another kind of win for this wastewater plant. Some of the funding that we did get was a big win, and this opportunity is a huge win, both, well, not even both, I mean, from so many angles, environmentally, operationally, monetarily, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm pretty excited about this prospect, and our meeting with DEQ Regulatory was very positive. So I anticipate a positive outcome, but I won't know until we receive that outcome, and I will make sure that you guys know as well. But that's the one thing I kind of wanted to draw your attention to, because I feel like it's a big one, and it just once again shows how we're always, your staff, we're always trying to think about how we can do things better, how we can do things in a more efficient way, whether that's monetarily or operationally or both in this case. But we are always looking for those efficiencies and where to find them, and we do jump on them when they're available. So if anyone has any questions over that, I'd be glad to answer those. We also have a whole bunch more report over here. So as you guys go through that, you know where to find me. Shoot me an email if you have any questions over anything that's going on in there. And with that, I will take any questions you have or pass it back to Mr. Mayor.
Council have any questions? All right. Thank you, sir. City Manager Huff.
Yeah, just a couple of things. That was a pretty cool grand opening tonight, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes, it was.
Those of you who were there, it was great. I know that the people that built the structure and designed the structure are just as proud of it as we are, so we had a big crowd of them. And Mayor Kaiser made a very nice speech.
Thank you, sir.
So a couple of things. I was looking at Clackamas County's commissioner website today because I was looking for something to see if they made a decision on it, but I didn't find that. But what I did see in their agenda was each agenda item, at the end of the explanation of the agenda item, they had a statement that they said no impact on county general funds. Okay, it's on every one. I don't know, it might have been an impact on somebody else's general fund, but it wasn't an impact on the county's general fund. So I was just thinking about that as we were going through the UGB discussion, and it does have a big impact on our general fund. And those are the things I look at, because if we want to do the other things that we need to be doing for the city, and sometimes moving forward is not necessarily that we've got all this growth and development. It can mean a number of different things, but these projects have a huge impact on our general fund. And so I appreciate what you did tonight. The other thing I wanted to bring up on that was we heard a comment tonight where the city restricts water in the fall. That is just not true. And I think you all know that happened one time in what, 2016? I think it was. Or 17.
It was the.
It was before.
It was when I was elected.
Was it
It was the summer.
2020?
2020.
It was 2020.
And
Yeah,
there's
it was one
voluntary
time
curtailment.
since I've been here. One time, and actually after the fact, we found out we really didn't even need to do that. So, so I'm thankful you all caught that. And the other thing I want to bring up is that if the Molalla CPO wants us to visit the CPO and talk to them, we would be happy to do that. We just need to be invited. We're not going to show up and say we're here to talk. If they want us to do that, we would be happy to do that. So if that's the case, just invite us. That's all I have.
Perfect. All right. Councilor Bartholomew.
I have nothing to report, Mayor Kaiser.
All right. Councilor Gilmer.
I have nothing to report.
Councilor Schenkel, welcome back.
Thank you. I haven't had a chance to go to a chamber meeting yet, but I do know they're having their auction this Saturday night. Tickets, you might still be able to buy tickets for dinner if you call the Chamber of Commerce and talk to Jill, right? Still Jill down there, okay. Other than that, I don't have anything.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Councilor Schenkel, or Councilor Childress.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Following up on what Mr. Huff was saying about the water restriction, we didn't actually restrict water even that year. We encouraged conservation. We never put a restriction on water, and I think that's a really important thing to notice. I attended the grand opening of the police department today too, and I was just one of many people who were there. I was so glad to see such a turnout, and it just warms my heart that we were able to build that building and to give our police force a decent place in which to work. I've been on council nearly 10 years, and that has been a top priority ever since I joined council. And a lot of us have followed that project through and encouraged it and made way for it the best that we could. I've talked to some of the previous counselors, and they've said the same thing, how thrilled they are that this has finally come to fruition, because we and staff followed it close for a long time. And there's nothing better than a feeling of accomplishment like that for our city and for our police force. That's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel. Council President Vermillion?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I too also attended the grand opening today, and what a great experience that was to see so many people from our community attend, and to, again, building on what Councilor Childress was saying, to give our police force the tools that they need to be successful. We were able to tour that building last Wednesday, and if you get a chance in March, there will be having tours then. I encourage you to go through it, because it is a building that is a part of our community. It is just as much the citizens building as it is the police building. So there is a community room that is going to be made available at times where the community can rent it, but that is going to be in the future. That should be coming down the pike, hearing more about that sometime later.
We won't charge rent.
No,
Okay, well, I thought that's what she said.
No, it's just.
there's a correction to that.
Okay, no rent.
No rent.
No rent. Probably an arrangement to make sure you clean up after yourself,
Yes.
but
That will
no
be
rent.
part of it.
Okay. Other than that, Mayor, what a great meeting. You did a great job today with your speech.
Thank you, sir.
And everything you said about Dan is true.
How do I follow up with that? As everybody said, the grand opening was really, really awesome today. It was nice seeing Chief Lusich there. I highly recommend, if anybody has not driven by there and it's dark outside, drive by, look in the window. Some of the bowling lanes were reallocated, and the designing group designed a badge. That it's a huge badge that looks like our Molalla police badge. It's in the wall, made out of the bowling lanes, and the way the lights and everything, it's really cool. One of the things that I don't think gets highlighted enough with the police station is, if somebody is having an emergency, somebody's chasing you, the very front lobby, you walk in the doors, there's a button you can hit, and you become locked in a glass safe until the police show up. That is one feature that I really appreciate that was added to this. So again, if you're in some sort of an emergency and someone's following you, chasing you, you walk right in the front doors, and there's a button there to your left, you push it, and it locks it up until a police officer gets there to let you out. I would not suggest pranking it. You will not be able to get away. That door locks really, really well. On my adventures today of listening to other councils and local government, I listened to Clackamas County commissioners from yesterday's meeting, and they were bringing up money shortfalls. And one of the shortfalls they had from their last budget cycle was animal control. And so they are in the process of, they want to discuss charging each city in Clackamas County a fee for animal services. And so I did get a hold of a couple of the commissioners, and it just so happened they actually were proactive and sent an email to Mr. Huff to sit down. And one of the things I brought up with the commissioners was I think our city staff and the other cities' staff throughout Clackamas County need to sit down and discuss this fee before the county decides what it is presents a program to us and we just decide yes or no. I think our city managers can attest to the fact they know what we need from county animal services with our police departments. And so it sounds like that they're going to be doing that and sitting down with you, one of you, and discussing the future of animal services in the county. So that was a very good thing to hear. Budget cycle's upon us. We're looking for one more person on our budget team, or budget committee. Get involved. It's a great learning experience. There's training. It's not like you have to know how to do a budget. Trust me, I did not know how to do a budget before I started doing this. The city provides you training online, and you learn all about the budget, and you learn where all the dollars go. If you have questions on where the money's going in the city, this is a perfect place to do it. You are one of the first people to get our next year's budget to go over. So if you're interested, please get a hold of City Recorder Teets and get involved. I think it's 2 meetings at the most, because we don't do training here anymore. We just do it online, correct?
Correct.
So yeah, it's usually 1 meeting because we knock it out of the park in 4 hours, but it might be 2, and you're done for the year. So get involved. That's what it's all about. That's how we all learn. Anything else I'm missing? I don't think so. If there isn't anything else for the good of the order, I will adjourn this meeting at 7:06.